Hello everyone. In my last lecture, we were talking about William Gilbert's On the Magnet. And in this book, On the Magnet, what Gilbert does is he's going to try to explain the nature of magnetism and how magnets work. In particular, one of the things that he mentioned was that the Earth orients a compass needle by exerting a directive force or giving verticity to the compass needle, and that is why the magnetic compass needle turns toward the north. And he says likewise a terrella, or a small spherical lodestone, exhibits a directive force or creates verticity in a nearby magnetized compass needle near the terrella. So he says he's using this terrella, or this spherical lodestone, as a model of what's happening on the Earth. And he goes on to say that the terrella has the same form as the Earth. And as I mentioned in my last lecture, he doesn't mean it has the same shape as the Earth. He's using loaded language that was very important during this time period. He's saying that the spherical lodestone has the same formal cause as the Earth. And as I mentioned last time, he's using the language of Aristotle and Aristotle's four causes. Now, I know for some of you who've taken my astronomy course, or perhaps my course on space, time, and motion, we've talked about Aristotle's four causes before, but I can't emphasize how important it is to understand Aristotle's four causes, and I would argue that you really can't understand the early modern scientists, whether it be Gilbert or Galileo or Newton or Pascal, unless you have a good understanding of Aristotle and his four causes. So, for those of you who know this already, please bear with me, but for the rest of you, I think it's really important for you to get a grasp of this before we continue with our study of Gilbert. So I'm going to turn off my webcam, and I'm going to give a review of Aristotle's four causes. Okay, so a review of the Aristotelian account of causality. This will make sense to you. Okay? Or, so a review of Aristotelian account of causality, or we might say, what counts as an explanation of something? What counts as an explanation of something? Okay, that's the question that we're asking. Okay, and what Aristotle argued is that in order to understand a thing, whether that thing is a tree or an animal like a rabbit or an inanimate thing like a statue or a toy, one needs to ask four questions. Four questions must be asked. Okay, so the first question is, what is this thing? What is it? Okay, and the answer to that will be what he called the formal cause of the thing. I'll give an example in a moment to clarify this. Second, what is it made of? Or what's it made out of? What is it made of? And that is what he would call the material cause. If you can answer that, you know the material cause of the thing. The third question is who or what made it and how. Made it and how. And the answer to that will give what is called the efficient cause of the thing we're trying to explain. And finally, the fourth question is, what is its purpose? Its end or its goal, depending on how you want to put it. Purpose, end, or goal. And that would be, according to Aristotle, the final cause of the thing. Okay? So let's go ahead and do an example. So let's consider an example. This will become clear to you if you haven't seen this already. This is really common sense. That's one of the nice things about Aristotle. Once you understand what he's doing, it really makes a lot of sense. So consider an example. Let's consider this example of We want to understand the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. Okay, that's the thing we want to understand. So, first of all, the first question, what is it? Well, the answer is it's a 29-foot tall statue of Abe Lincoln. Statue of Abraham Lincoln. That's what it is. Okay, 29-foot tall statue. That's if he stands up. It would be 29 feet tall. Okay. Number 2, what is it made of? Well, it's made of marble or stone. Notice that's a different thing than what it is, right? What it's made of is a different thing than what it is. It's marble, some kind of stone, right? So that's the material cause, whereas this would be the formal cause of it. This would be the material cause. Number 3, who made it? Well, I looked this up. I didn't know this offhand, but it was carved by the Piccirilli brothers. The Piccirilli brothers, probably on some kind of commission, in the late 1910s and early 1920s. I'll just put them in the 1920s. Okay, so that's who made it and how they made it. It was carved by these brothers. And finally, what is its purpose? What's the purpose of the Lincoln Memorial? Well, it says right in it, it's a temple. It's a temple to glorify the 16th president, or to bring glory to glorify the 16th president of the United States. Kind of a shrine of the United States. Okay, so we have just applied the Aristotelian 4 causes approach to understanding the Lincoln Memorial. I would encourage you to try this for anything. You can do this with, the Eiffel Tower. You could do this with a bowl of spaghetti. You can do this with all different kinds of things. This is the approach that Aristotle had in understanding things. Aristotle's 4 causes. Now, why am I bringing this up? Remember, we're talking about this. Why are we talking about this? Why are we discussing this? It's always a good question to ask. Well, because Gilbert is talking about, William Gilbert in his On Magnetism talks about the terrestrial as having the same form or formal cause of the Earth. So Gilbert claims that a terrestrial, a spherical lodestone, has the same form or formal cause, formal cause as the Earth. Okay? And this really, like I said, is ancient Aristotelian and medieval terminology. So let's think about this a little bit more. According to Aristotle and also his followers, later medieval thinkers, every corporeal thing, every bodily thing, whether it's a rock or a tree or a squirrel or a person, is made up of or comprised of form plus matter. So corporeal objects, things you can touch. Corporeal objects are composed of both form and matter. Okay, this, by the way, if you're interested, is a doctrine called hylomorphism. It's a Greek word. Morph means form. Hyle means like matter. It's technically more like wood, but it's basically matter and form. Okay, corporeal objects are composed of form and matter, and this makes sense. Why do I say that? Because you can't simply describe the matter alone. The matter alone cannot distinguish a wooden chair from a wooden tree. They're both made of wood. They have the same matter, but they have different forms. So a wooden tree and a wooden chair, or a wooden toy, or a wooden boat, they all have the same material cause, matter, but different forms. So those are conceptually different. Matter and form are different concepts. Okay? So everything has a form, or a formal cause that makes it what it is, and from which flows that thing's unique properties. So everything has a formal cause that makes it what it is. That makes it what it is, and also from which flows its unique properties, or nature, its properties. Okay. So let's talk about an example here. So for an example, an oak tree has the form of an oak tree, right? And it has certain properties by virtue of being an oak tree. A squirrel has the form of a squirrel, and it has certain properties that follow from that. Its fuzziness and its tendency to collect acorns and bury them and dig them up. A person has the form of a person. And that gives a person his or her unique qualities. Okay, it's not just the matter that they're made out of, but the formal cause that dictates their properties. Okay, and this gives rise to this kind of hierarchical view of created things or corporeal things. So according to the ancient and medieval worldview, this approach, this leads to a hierarchical view of nature. What do we mean by that? Let me talk about this hierarchical view of nature that this gives rise to. I hope you find this as interesting as I do. It really is the way that these scientists are thinking, and they're either adopting this language or they're fighting against this language. So it's really important to understand this sort of approach. So what is this hierarchical view that we're talking about here? So imagine there are 4 levels to nature, at least 4. Let's just enumerate the 4 right here. And I'm going to write level, the kingdom, I'll write soul right here with a question mark. This will be apparent where I'm going with this in a moment. And the properties or the potentials of this kingdom. Okay, so level 1 would be things like minerals or rocks. Okay, does it have a soul? Well, no, it's inanimate. It's an inanimate object. Okay, rocks, minerals, things like that. They still do have properties that follow from their formal cause. The properties are things like they're hard. Rocks are hard. Of course, some are harder than others. They have gravity, right? They have weight, so gravity. Some of them, in fact, are magnetic, right? So this would be one of the properties of some of the inanimate objects. And this is the kind of thing that Gilbert is particularly interested in, the formal cause of something and the properties that flow from the formal cause. So we'll come back to this in a moment. The next level that's higher up are things like plants. According to this medieval worldview, well, plants were living organisms. So there's kind of a break right here. Everything down here is inanimate. Everything here and up is going to be animate. So this is kind of the dividing line of what we would call life. So plants, he would say, they have a soul. They have but it's not a soul like yours and mine. It's a vegetable or vegetative soul. Okay, and that vegetative soul is the formal cause of plants. Okay, so that formal cause, you can also call it a vegetative soul, allows it to grow. These properties flow from that formal cause. It can reproduce and so on. Okay, so its formal cause, its vegetative soul, gives it certain properties that follow from that. So that's what we're talking about, the formal cause. From this formal cause flow its properties. Okay, what's the next one? An animal, or all the animals. Well, they also have souls according to this ancient and medieval worldview. Okay, And that is a different kind of soul, though. It's a motive soul. It has all the properties of a vegetative soul. It allows them, they can grow, they can reproduce. So all of these things, plus they are conscious. And also they can move. So they can move around. So they have all the abilities of things that have this, a vegetative soul, plus they have extra things. Okay? And then, above that, you've got man, or woman, person, people, right? And they have a rational soul. So the rational soul is seen as the formal cause, or the form of man. Like the motive soul is the form of animals, the vegetative soul is the form of plants. And the rational soul, it allows man to do all the things that vegetables can do, grow and reproduce, all the things that animals can do. They're conscious, they can move around, they're sensitive to their environment and so on. But he also is able to reflect. He can reflect, he can contemplate, and he has a unique ability to use language and reason. Okay? So this gives you an understanding of the way that nature was classified in this ancient and medieval view. And notice that this is not an anti-Christian view. In fact, most Christians had this view up until about the time of Descartes in the 1600s. So Gilbert is right around this time where there's this transition from this worldview to a modern worldview, where basically in the modern worldview that Descartes ushered in, man is the only thing that has a soul. Everything else down here doesn't have a soul. And even then in the 1900s, we get to a point where people question whether even man has a soul. And it's because they're rejecting formal causes. They're saying there's no such thing as formal causes. Rational soul is a formal cause, motive soul, vegetative soul, those are formal causes. So Descartes and others then start rejecting the whole idea of formal causes in favor of strictly material and efficient causes. So this is a lightning introduction to the Aristotelian four causes. Why am I bringing this up once again? Because Gilbert, in his book on the magnet, says that the terrestrial, so Gilbert claims that, I guess I wrote it here, Gilbert claims that the terrestrial has the same formal cause as the Earth. So the terrestrial is akin to the Earth as regards to its formal cause. Okay, so what does he mean by that? It has the same form as the Earth, the same formal cause as the Earth. Okay, so just as human beings, which have a rational soul as their form, they can reproduce and create more humans that also have the same form, a rational soul, so too the Earth can transmit its form or its formal cause to rocks that are born, so to speak, from its bowels. So just as people who have a rational soul as their formal cause can give rise to new people that have rational souls. They have that power to do that. Okay, they can reproduce. Okay, so too, the Earth, which has a special form that is unique to it, the Earth, which has a certain form of the Earth, it can give rise to terrestrials or lodestones, rocks, that also have the same form or formal cause. That is, they share the same properties of the Earth by virtue of sharing the form of the Earth. Okay, and that is how Gilbert is thinking about this. Okay, and so in next time we're going to talk about how he explains this, or maybe how he gives examples of this when you pull a rock out of the Earth, like a lodestone out of a mine. It's basically being born of the Earth. It's sharing the properties of the Earth. So let's stop there and we'll come back to this next time.